This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators, and welcome to the latest episode of Spec. I'm one half of your long-lost host, Jake, along with the never-to-be-outdone bearded wonder, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Keeping it very beardy over here, man. Is it not fantastic right now? Is it not wonderful? Is it not just like falling perfectly upon your ears? The beard, I mean, the beard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can hear the beard perfectly. Listeners out there, do not adjust that dial. You are not hearing anything from the past. This is the present. This is a new episode of Spec. I know some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, is this a rerun? Are they playing something from a previous time and age, maybe something that had been recorded that they forgot to release way back in the early aughts? No, this is Halloween 2024. I think this is episode 105, Jesus, but to be honest, I've kind of lost track.
Holy crap, man. 105. Man, that sounds scary. I mean, it's very scary. Yeah, this is a completely new episode. We could not let Halloween season 2024 go by without us hopping on the mics and just having some fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. So we're going to get to where we've been the last 6 months, and we don't mean this to be a tease of any sort. We're going to talk to you a little bit about where we've been, what we've been up to, and where we're going with this. But in general, we want to start by saying thank you so much to all the listeners out there who have continued listening. We still get numerous downloads every week. Some will get hundreds of downloads without releasing an episode, which is mind-blowing. And we're so happy and grateful that people are still finding the show and still listening to it and enjoying it. On top of that, Jesus, we've had people reaching out to us. When's the next show? Everything okay? Where is everybody? Did Jesus die? I haven't felt the beard presence in my life in a few months. And I have to, I'm letting everybody know, Jesus, you're still alive. Nobody worries if I'm dead. That kind of makes me feel odd.
Well, I mean, they obviously know that you just can't die. You're immortal. You just shrivel up and then they put more water on you. And for me, it's once every 22 years I molt. There's molting time, so.
Isn't that the same? What's the years for the clown or the monster in it?
Yeah,
is it 22?
It's
like 26. That. I think it's 26 years.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I got.
So you're not that monster.
Yeah, I'm more often. I'm definitely more often. 22
you
every
molt
22
more
years.
Often. Yeah.
Dang, I lost my train of thought on that one. Sorry. oh yes, I do remember now. Sorry. Tons of people reaching out, holding us accountable, enjoying the past shows. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I enjoyed about it is that, there's some stuff you can just go back, like the Bartels, and listen to them. They don't really have a, shelf date. A bunch of them are cool. You can still go back and listen to them, maybe find new things in them. And people reaching out and just, holding us accountable, in other words, and saying, hey, what's going on? Where's the Bartels that you guys have been wanting to share with us and collecting? So we're back, and like Jake mentioned, we have a couple updates that we're kind of excited to talk about, and some others that are not, like, we just don't know yet. So we'll get to it though.
Maybe we just kind of jump right into a little bit of it. Like, we have high schoolers now, which is incredible because when we started this podcast, you didn't have any high schoolers. I didn't have any high schoolers. Now we both, like, I have a sophomore. You have a sophomore and a junior.
I have a sophomore and a junior. Yeah.
Bananas. And just life keeps getting busier. And I don't mean to put that as an excuse, but family, here on Spec, family comes first. I mean, well, comics,
And then
family,
family. Yeah, there you
Spec
go.
Tales,
There you go. Right.
amongst other things. Don't tell my or Jesus's wife. We said that. Anyway, not to give excuses, but we did also occupy ourselves with some new, not hobbies. Well, not even new per se, but maybe new for one of us. For you,
New for me, for sure. And with Jake's leading to, I'm not gonna spill. I'm gonna let him talk about it because that's his. But definitely, we've talked about creative endeavors, and we both consider ourselves creative individuals. And
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, I mean, we're almost 10 minutes into this and we haven't revealed anything about what we've done over the course of the last 6 months. So I apologize. I don't mean to talk too much, but I always do anyway. So prior to starting Spec Tales, for the previous decade and a half or whatever, I think since 2006, when I was in college, my biggest hobby has been in like independent filmmaking, and I did that for years, almost decades. We're coming up on the decades time frame, which is kind of crazy to say. And I did the whole thing. You know, I lived in LA for a little bit. There's this whole background. All the listeners are like, "What? No,
the
you
lore,
no."
that's deep.
There's all this backstory, this hidden backstory to Jake that nobody knew about. Some people may have known. I don't know. But so I did a lot of independent filmmaking. I studied filmmaking in college, along with marketing and advertising, which is what I do my day to day to make money. But I got into independent filmmaking, made multiple films, multiple short films, and basically the last short film I made was 2016, 2017. It's been long enough, and I tried to get a few other projects off the ground. And then when COVID hit, I sort of just put all of that aside. I just packed it all up and I said, okay, taking a break from this. That was fun, but not really reasonable, especially during COVID anyway. And it was a time where there was a renaissance in my life of comic books and that obsession and getting back into reading, as we've discussed. And then Spec Tales took over. And so some friends had been really trying to pull me back in, and I'm the type of individual that I can't just jump into something unless I get that spark of inspiration, and I got hit with that early in 2024. I want to say something about, something like January. And Jesus, you were very supportive. You were pushing me as well. Like, you should do it again. You were enabling, really. My wife probably doesn't appreciate that you're an enabler.
We all know that junkies need their fix, and I wasn't going to get out of it with Jake. Jake was going to do it no matter what. However, I did have a small hand in pushing him over the edge. At least I like to think that.
Just a small hand, right?
Just a small hand. Just my strong hand.
So over the course of the summer, basically from March when we stopped recording on to now, I have been working on a new film project. And I'm saying I'll get to that in a second. We shot a movie in early August, and we, as in Jesus, was a part of it. Jesus and I wanted everybody to know Jesus and I didn't just like break up and stop talking. And, no, Jesus came along for the ride. We shot a movie in Shreveport, Louisiana, of all places. I'm not from there. Jesus isn't from there. But the good news is we both knew how to get there. And so
barely.
Yeah, we met there in June to do some location scouting, and then got back together again in August to shoot the film, which is hilarious because a year ago at this time, Jesus, we were just meeting for the first time in Dallas at that Comic-Con. And then since then, we've hung out 2 more times in person. And we didn't even go to a comic shop either of those times.
I know. I mean, yeah, we couldn't have gone. It was just so jam-packed on what we were doing. But it's funny because last year we met one time. This year is 2 times. So next year obviously has to be 3 times. It has to continue to at least 3 times, right?
Well, I think it's a multiplication. The first time is 1, then it's 2, and then the
Okay.
next one's got to go to 4, and then the next time it's got to go to 8.
Now it's an SAT question. It's an SAT question now.
It's like folding paper,
yeah,
right?
How many
It's
times can you do it in 1 year? There's a limit. There's definitely a limit. But yeah.
So anyway, so for all you listeners that are still paying attention and interested, I am still working on this project. We are in post-production on this film, and Jesus is new to learning, and if anybody else out there is new. So film goes into production where you actually film it, and then we are now editing and doing music and sound and all of the stuff that polishes up the project. The goal is to have this film, which is going to be a short film, and it'll be about a little over 10 minutes. It is to be done with it by the end of the year. What we do with it after that, we're not sure yet. It'll most likely be going to festivals, but which festivals and when, that's still to be determined, and we'll make sure that we update people on that for when that actually happens. But until then, anybody is welcome to reach out and ask questions if you want to know more. Certainly, I don't mind giving further details. I just don't really feel like I need to bore anybody with more about it right now. But in general, yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I've certainly been including Jesus and kind of bringing him along. And who knows, now that Jesus has the bug, and now that he's experienced production on a firsthand basis, maybe we've got another. It's like, the first one's always free, right? Isn't that that's the way it works?
That's how they say. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like somehow you finagled me in, and now somehow I'm part of your group of buddies that say, hey, you need to get into this. You need to shoot your own. You have an idea. Why don't you do that? Like it's something like easy, as I'm seeing Jake go through this whole process. And it's so difficult, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can be there and have all this stress and drink 10 Red Bulls in one day. I don't know how you did that, Jake.
Nobody did that. Nobody. I mean, I am a small individual. I think 10 Red Bulls would tranquilize me, and I'd be dead for days. For sure.
You weren't that whole week, man. You were on a diet of Red Bull and ice cream. So
yeah.
But yeah, man, it's if you guys want to reach out to Jake, man, and get some more insight, he's all for it, and he's very talented individual. I know he's being humble, very talented, and very experienced and very thoughtful. So I was very fortunate to be able to join him on that journey, even in the smallest bit. So I did want to thank him publicly here to everybody, and obviously I'll thank him more later as well, in other venues or what we have or whenever that stuff comes up. But yeah, so that's what Jake was doing for the past 8 months, 9 months, really.
Well, I keep saying 6 months because that's all my brain, and like I don't know how long it's been, honestly.
Yeah, but it's funny too, man, because we're getting towards the end of it, but I remember those first times when you were talking about it and you were thinking about ideas and projects and the iterations and stuff, and it's just really cool to see it, how it kind of mixed and formed and evolved and transformed into what we have now, that what I'm waiting on patiently to get done. And
it takes forever. It's a hurry up and wait process that I wish moved quicker, but at the same time I have learned that patience is paid off in quality, right? Like the idea, nothing, the phrase Rome wasn't built in a day, and so on and so forth. It rings true in terms of the creative process, and making sure things are done well, done right, and that time does give perspective. Stepping away from an edit or something like that for a day or two, or even longer, and then coming back to it with fresh eyes. I assume that translates to things like comics as well, and any other form of creative.
Yeah, I definitely think, and that's what I was going to say too. So, some of the things that I've been working on, and I'll share briefly because mine are not necessarily as far down the road as Jake's are, but part of it is because of the journey that I saw Jake go through. And so late last year, I was able to write a pitch for a comic book, and I had it all, written and got an artist, a really really good artist, letterer, like everything, color. I had the whole pitch done. However, as the year dragged on and Jake got into his project, I just felt that I wasn't putting the time, effort, and energy into it as much as I should have, as far as planning it out, right? Like it's still gonna be on my project. I'm still gonna write that story or complete that story at some point, but I really wanted to focus and drill down into one story, and I shared it with Jake, and Jake was saying that it was good as well, and he was giving me some good feedback, and so I just been distilling that story, over and over, and making a concentrate of that story that I've been working on. And I'm at a script level for it. I'm almost done with it. As Jake knows, I keep telling him one more week, one more week, because he wants to read it. So I've been working on comic books. I love comic books. I've been, writing for a long time. I used to be a sports writer for MMA and boxing websites. So I do have a writing bug, but I've always been creative and I've always loved comic books. So I definitely wanted to get into the comic book writing space. And obviously, Spectales has helped me, right? It's helped me talk to creators. I'm always the one asking about craft because partially I'm learning the craft as I talk to these creators. And who best than to learn from than those that have already walked that path? So that's what I've been working on. I'll have more to share at a later date, and obviously, you guys will be the first ones to get that information. Besides Jake, obviously.
I'm going to be the very, very first. And I appreciate what you said about me earlier. And I would reciprocate as well by saying everybody out there is going to want to read what Jesus is putting down. Jesus, I don't want to, I won't reveal anything, of course, especially not story specific, but I will say that Jesus has let me read multiple pieces that he has been working on. Not simply just one, but multiple. And the man is creative and crafty. I'll tell you what, he's got an ability to pull together a story that obviously with the beard, you knew that it was going to be good, but damn it, I didn't realize the beard gave you that kind of superpowers. I thought it was more like, Samson with the super strength and, the handsomeness and all of that. Like, who knew that the beard also provided creative powers? I am unable to grow a beard, which only infuriates me more because I feel like I could use some of those creative juices that you clearly the oils that you have in that beard,
Jake,
spring creative ideas.
one, thank you humbly, but I am just a vessel for this beard. So
well, that that said, the history lesson of where we've been for the last 6 months is done and in the can. We're only 20 minutes in. If you're still listening, hey, thanks a lot. That's it. Have a good night, everybody. No, I'm just joking. We have an episode to really jump into. We've got so back when we used to do the show, Jesus, we used to do these things called segments. Do you remember? Yeah, we had like 3 segments where we would go into really random stuff, and I would always have to, and I don't even remember what it does. I just have this there's this urge to press this button. Should I just see what it does?
press the little red button.
How'd you know it was a red button? That's weird.
Recent pickups.
Oh, recent pickups. I remembered this. This is the part of the show where we're going to talk about something we've recently picked up or read, and we're going to relay it to the listeners out there on how we felt about it. What I don't know. Is it a collectible? Is it a something new that we read and we want to give our own little review? I don't know. Let's see what it is. Let's see. Hey, Zeus, maybe you should go first.
All right, I'll go first, man. I will talk about comic books. How about that? And this goes into I'm not gonna talk about, I'm gonna let you talk about that one, but I wanted to talk about this one for a myriad of reasons. But one, this is also gonna force you to read this because a recent pickup I have, and it's already on issue 3, so it's a little older for you guys. I'm sure you guys are probably reading it because this guy is a master now. I think he's at the top of his game. I don't know if you've seen this, Jake, because I know you haven't necessarily been in the space a lot, but have you seen this book recently? It's called "The Moon is Following Us."
Is that Dustin Johnson?
It's Daniel Warren.
Oh
Johnson.
my God, Daniel Warren Johnson.
Is Daniel Warren Johnson?
Yeah. No, yes, I've heard of it mostly because of comic Twitter.
Yeah. So, man, one, this is the cover of Daniel Warren Johnson, but he's also has a co-writer on this named Riley Rossmo. Now, you might remember Riley Rossmo from Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, the B covers that were like, those, I think the Hobbit books, remember? Those ones that were really intricate.
Oh, yeah.
That was his artwork. But he's a co-writer and co-artist on this. And it's 3 issues in. I read 1 and 2. I haven't read 3. But it's so good, man. And in this book, in the first issue, he writes about how he needed, Riley Rossmo to help him write this book. How he had, a semblance of an idea. He likened it to a guitar riff without a placement, which means without a song, like a great guitar riff without a song. And Riley helped him write the song, write the whole thing where it was supposed to be. I helped him find it and write it. As we know, Daniel's been writing a lot more now. He's Transformers, is following us.
I mean, I'm surprised he had time to write this.
Yeah. So I just thought it was really cool. I just thought it has a lot of the hallmarks of him, but also not of him. Like you can tell, like it's more, right? That's the only way I can put it. Like it's more. And you guys know I like Daniel Warren Johnson a lot. Murder Falcon, Do a Powerbomb.
I mean, yeah, Murder Falcon and Do a Powerbomb.
Like those are some of my favorites. But this is different. Like you can kind of tell where it deviates, but also where it's inherently him as well, right? But I just thought that collaboration and like it wouldn't have happened without the collaboration. In other words, is what I feel. And when I'm sure that, I mean, he mentions that he talks about it. So I wanted you to read it, man. That's what my recent pickup is. The Moon is Following Us. If you guys have not read it, do yourself a favor, get it. Very interesting. And as much as I read it, it's still very different from what's out there right now. And if you're a parent, you would definitely like this book. So The Moon is Following Us. Cool name as per usual. Cool artwork from both of these guys. And obviously Mike Spicer on colors as always with Daniel Warren Johnson. So Moon is Following Us. That's my recent pickup. Pretty cool.
Nicely done. Very, very good recommendation. Can't say you can go wrong with Daniel Warren Johnson. He basically has a perfect track record.
Yeah, man. He hasn't missed yet. The man doesn't miss.
No, he really hasn't. Although it is interesting to see him start collaborating with other individuals. So I have here. Are you good? Is that the one? That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah, I just want to talk about. I mean, I've read other ones. I read The Pedestrian, which is pretty good. I just want to mention that one too. I think it's called The Pedestrian. I forgot what it's called, but it's funny. Something crawled out from Vol. I've been reading a lot, dude. I've been reading a lot. So, but that's the one I wanted to highlight. This one episode.
Well, I haven't picked up a comic. I haven't purchased something basically since March. I think that was the last time. And then I did pick up something in September. Many people who are avid listeners are probably going to understand or know that when I'm deep in the Batcave, really head down doing work, there isn't a whole lot that's going to get me to lift my head up and say, oh yeah, I better grab that. And one of the few things that really perked my ears and said, yep, got to make it to the old comic shop to pick that up. And that is Ultra Mega So I am currently holding Ultra Mega 5 and 6. 6 just came out a couple weeks ago. 5 came out. There you go. There you go. You got cover 1. I have those too. I ended up getting one of each cover 1 and cover 2 for each month. I like to hold on to cover 1 and read cover 2. But had to pick those up, and I have read them, but I am ashamed to say it took me until issue 6 came out before I actually read issue 5. So I'm glad I waited to read, because James Herron does a really good job of cliffhanger endings. And it's not a spoiler. Like he doesn't, it's cliffhanger, but the thing is what he does always before the ending, a good cliffhanger ending gives you more information than you had. Like you get all the way to the end of the book and you get answers, you get a bunch of information, but then new questions arise. And it's this, like, in a matter of like panels, you get a bunch of information, more questions, end of the book. And it's just the best, right? It's this like incredible, like you're not just left just with questions and nothing in your nothing in your hands to hold, to keep you warm for the next 30 days, right? Like it completes storylines and then just says, nope, but there's still more. Now, what I want to say about Ultra Mega, and I won't do a giant, if you haven't read Ultra Mega 1 through 4, the first 4 in the series that came out like 3 years ago, I will tell you it is still my favorite comic book series. It's absolutely my favorite. And to say I was a little worried, well, I mean, I was very excited for Heron to continue the series to get 5 and 6, but genuinely, I was a little worried. What would we get? What would we get after all this time? He only did 4. It wasn't like it was this like 36 comic book run. He did 4 issues, and he kind of finished the story that he started. So I was curious what would happen, and would we get something as good as what we had? And uh, I gotta say, without spoilers, it is good. It is really good. And where I thought there was so much great world building and villains and characters in the first 4 books, somehow Heron managed to take the same world he had already built and expand it. And and that really is the sign of obviously a good writer, but also a good world building to start with. The foundation in the first 4 books was so good that he didn't need to change any of it. He didn't change any of his history or nothing. He just expanded the world that you were looking through. And because of that, like, I don't know what to say. It's phenomenal. It just keeps going. And there's literally nothing, there's no concerns, right? Like I was concerned coming into it. I was like, is it going to be good? Is it, does Heron still have it? And in short, hell yeah. Still highly recommend it, and it even more now is still my favorite. I still think book number 1 might still be the best standalone comic book I have ever read, but the series doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, man. So I've only read issue 5. I haven't gotten to issue 6 yet, and I'll tell you, like, I'll go a little bit deeper into my worries, my thought process on it. You worry if a writer or a creator steps away from what they've been doing for so long that it's not going to have the same feel or essence or that lining in a bottle. But at the same time, I think naturally, people are more pessimistic with something that they really like because they want it to be the same and feel the same, and you're worried that it's not going to, right? So I kind of held off on reading it for a while because I didn't want it to ruin 1 through 4, because 1 through 4 to me are, I mean, they're just really a real good encapsulation of what comic books can be, and how different they can be, even though they're the same, right? Like, I say they're the same, like it's kaijus, right? But it's so different, something we haven't seen. And as I was reading the issue, and I was like, I reread it today again because I knew we were going to record. I was like, man, let me reread it just to make sure that I get the same feelings that I had when I read it initially. And sure enough, it's like you're reading it and you think you're going in one direction, like in one like way of reading, and then this is the fight scene or something, and then boom, he throws something at you, and you just can't help but laugh. Like, there it is. That's the Ultra Mega that I know. You know what I mean? Like, it's still there. And it's his baby, right? It's his creation. He's gonna make sure that it's good, right? Like, that because it has his name on it too, right? So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. It's still Ultra Mega. Definitely recommend it. The artwork is still dope. The expansion of the world is pretty dope as well. And I mean, I'm gonna keep reading it. It's gonna be one of those books that I read no matter how many come out.
Yeah, it's not shocking, right? Because the writing was so good the first time around that it shouldn't be shocking that it continues. But the break, right? Years break, and the notion that I think James Herron, he had completed a story, and maybe it was that he didn't know if it was going to sell. And right, like, you plan out an arc, you plan out what you're writing, and maybe he didn't initially think there would be anything beyond those 4. I don't know, maybe not. I guess I don't want to speak for him. I would love to chat with him. If anybody knows James Herron and knows how to put us in contact with him, love to. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, but that hasn't stopped us before.
Yeah, 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'm sure we can get to him. Last I talked to name drop Nick Pitara a month or 2 ago at a con here recently, and I put a bug in his ear, man, to say that, hey, we want to talk to James. They're buddies. They're like really good buddies. To put a bug in his ear to talk to him. So hopefully,
we'll see, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk to him. We'll ask him all these questions. Like, did he have that? Did he have that fear of continuation? Did he have that fear of, this is not going to sell? Did he have that fear of it's not going to be the same if I do number 5? That's why it took him so long. We'll get to ask him those questions one day.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It'd be great. I would love to chat. And
well, I will say something though. I will say something that I am very surprised. I am very surprised that you did not pick up your favorite writer's recent book.
Who's that?
Scott Snyder.
Oh, my favorite Batman writer. What did he write?
He's writing Batman.
He's writing Batman again?
Yeah.
See, Jake is removed, everybody. I'm not this. Don't come to me for comic book advice. That's not what I'm trying. I'll get back into it. But no, I didn't realize he was writing Batman again.
Mm-hmm. It's a different version of Batman.
Is it Capullo as well doing the art?
Is it Capullo? No, it's not Capullo. It's somebody. Is it Capullo?
It doesn't count then.
It might be, dude. Let me double check. Hold on. But yeah, man, it's getting all kinds of.
Is that the Supreme Batman?
Absolute.
Absolute. Supreme is at Pizza Hut. Sorry, that's how you order pizzas.
Let me see who is it. Creators. Artist Nick Dragotta. Nick Dragotta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude. Nick yeah, I mean, Dragotta is good. Ghost Cage. That's what we need more of. We need more of Ghost Cage as well.
Mm-hmm. So Dragotta and Snyder writing Absolute Batman, and it's going bananas right now, dude. It's on a 3rd printing.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, good. That is good news. I'll have to get one of those. Are they, from a speculation standpoint, are they getting valuable?
The issue 1 is very valuable right now.
Is it?
Ridiculously valuable.
Yeah, we'll wait till it comes down.
There's a really cool, man, we're going to do a Spec segmentary. There's a really cool Akira homage that I was like, but
Really?
it's like $200 right now, which is ridiculous.
Well, see, this is what happens. You get back into comics, you start spending money. That's how it goes. All right. Well, let's keep this train a moving because we're a little rusty. This might be a long episode. Who knows? But you know what? We can't get to the end unless we keep moving.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
That's right, the Grail Tale segment. This is one that everybody loves, knows, and loves. This is the one where we are going to talk about a comic book Grail Tale. Something of, in some cases, it can be high value. In some cases, it can just be personal value. Comic book Grail, where this one, what we have here is a listener submitted Grail Tale. This one, everybody who was asking us, reaching out and saying, hey, when are we going to get a new episode? When are we going to get a new episode? I can firmly tell you that while this individual did not specifically, this was not the entire reason why Jesus and I did an episode. Our friend here, Nate McGarry Myers, is a major reason why he gave us a listener submitted Grail Tale. And I tell you what, having a listener submitted Grail Tale is always a good reason to record. Because at that point, when people send us stuff like that, I feel an obligation to tell their story. Plus, it's a great little story. There's not a lot of details, and I don't want to spoil the story itself, but I did want to first call out Nate, saying thank you for reaching out and thanks for letting us share some of his news. Nate has some fun news. He had reached out just asking about, hey, what's going on? When's the next episode? So on and so forth, saying how much he loved the show, which we were reciprocating, just saying, of course, hey, we really appreciate it. We're trying to keep our heads above water on some personal projects we're working on, as we discussed earlier. But the truth is, we're always interested in chatting comics, and I just asked Nate any good grails lately, because that's just something that we ask everybody. And I mean, Nate came out and he just full on, he was just like, what about a self-made grail? Now, Jesus, we talked briefly about this earlier. This is a pretty cool story. I'm going to read a little bit of what Nate sent. There's not a ton of information, and I don't want to spoil it for Nate either, even if we had all of the information. But Nate said this: I've been making comics for a while now, not professional, of course. Next year, I'm going to self-publish. It's a labor you have to be dedicated to. Attached is a photo of the cover. Now, Jesus, I shared it's like a screen cap that Nate had sent of this cover. He hasn't told anybody about this. We're the first people. He said, you guys are the first ones I have shown the cover to. He hasn't shown this to anybody. And he is allowing us, by the way, he emailed us a high-res version of it so that we could use it on our cover art for this episode.
Nice.
And that's incredible, right? Just that he would let us share it. But let's talk about this cover, Jesus, because it's some of the information we do have. So what I can say is, Nate McGarry Myers is the follower, is the individual. You can find him at Nate's Nates Nate's Cott Art. So NATESCOTTART. Now, I probably butchered most of that, and I don't exactly know what it all stands for. But Nate's Cott Art is.
I think you're saying it wrong. I think it's Nate Scott Art.
Like he's got art. Nate's got art.
No. Nate
Scott
Art.
Shut up. Uh, boy, am I illiterate? I don't know. That's anyway. So I just feel honored that Nate would share this with us and would allow us to share some of his story. And I think the thing that everybody who reads comic books, maybe not everybody, but I know that you and I and like you have those dreams of like, man, I wish I could come up with a story. I wish I could create, right? That's something that you've been working on that we talked about. And that's something that you and I have openly expressed that we've been trying to, wanting to break into that creative space. Comics is an interesting space to do it. And if you are talented enough to do artwork like that, all the power to you. I do not have the
Yeah.
artistic skills. But let's talk about this cover because I have shared it with you.
Yep.
And we both kind of discussed that it has this almost 90s
Yep.
comic art, like the muscle tone and the just the line work on it. Something about it strikes me almost like Valiant comics. And I mean that as a compliment. Absolutely. I know maybe some people have a negative view on Valiant, but 90s Valiant was amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like comic collectors kind of like don't appreciate it because there were so many of them, I guess, like they weren't as rare, but the stories were really good. And I feel like the 90s comics are kind of having a resurgence. For example, like friend of the show, Tim Seeley doing Local Man, which is based on a 90s book.
Yep.
I think Youngblood or whatever it was called. I don't remember what it's called, but it's based on one of those books. And this definitely has that feel to it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, look, like it's permeating like comic books because it's not just at the professional level like Tim Seeley is doing it, others are doing it. It's also, self-published and people like Nate who's doing it.
So to me, it's kind of got there's a little bit of like high fantasy to it, but it also like it to me strikes me as, and this is just a visual. I don't know anything about the story, and that is going to be for Nate to share on his own as far as what his story is going to be and when the release is going to exactly happen. We're grateful that he would just let us share this much, but based on the artwork itself, which we will share, it gives the impression of like a cross between Thundercats, Silverhawks.
Oh no, or is it Masters of the Universe?
Sorry, that was the other one. I was gonna say it's like a cross between Thundercats or Silverhawks and then Masters of the Universe. It does have a Skeletor. So there's a villain in the foreground. We have who I imagine is our hero, and he's blue in tone, but it looks like he's wielding like a sword / axe looking piece that is. He's got a metallic arm, but the metallic arm gives me that Thundercats / Silverhawks vibe. And then the villain, who I assume is the villain in the background, has these horns coming out of his head, like ram horns, but a human head, and it really gives me sort of a Skeletor vibe. It's interesting. Like it doesn't look like a rip or a riff off of Skeletor. It's its own thing. It just has that vibe.
Yeah, agreed.
And I would just say it looks pretty badass. And again, if you're talented enough to make artwork like this, I don't know. All the power to you. This is
tip of the cap, right? Like and I'll say this too, man, as difficult as it is to make any comic or any pitch or any cover, this is certainly a grail, man. Even though it's a personal grail of getting it done and accomplished, it's so difficult, man, to flesh out something. Even I'm telling you guys, even a cover of what you're trying to say in that cover, right? As a we take it for granted because like, oh, it's a cool cover, but it takes so much just to put what you need on there and tell you just enough but not too much. And this one is like that. Like you said, like everything you're telling me is the same thing that I'm getting is vibes, right? Like we're getting vibes of this and vibes of that, and it kind of makes it interesting. Like, man, I want to know more about this. So great job on that. At the very least, great job on hooking us to to want to read or know more about this personal project.
Yeah. Well done. Well done, Nate. And thank you so much for sharing. We will be making sure that we tag you as well. And everybody should go and check it out and, support. I don't know when the release is, and Nate hasn't released any of that information. But at the very least, go give him a follow, and he'll let you know when that release is going to happen. And I want to say once again, thank you for listening, Nate, and thanks for reaching out and sort of being one of the catalysts to help us get this episode off the ground. It is kind of like riding a bike. So but speaking of that, let's get into the final segment of the show.
Speculation.
Now, I press that button and we hear the speculation segment, but I'm going to be upfront and honest with everybody out there listening. I am not somebody you want to be taking speculation advice from as of right now, because I have been so removed from the comic book world that I really couldn't tell you a whole lot about what I think would or would not make for smart speculation in terms of where my hobby is at this time. And right now, my version of this hobby is reading. And I haven't even really been collecting overly that much. Not to say that I couldn't get back into it, it just hasn't been a major priority. And I don't want to come on the show and pretend that it is.
Yeah, and that's, I think, very transparent of you as well. Like, you're not gonna look something up and use somebody else's speculation that their mind thought of, or connected the dots or whatever, which is very, very obviously admirable of you, and transparent of you, right? Like, it's good that we're not doing speculation just for speculation's sake, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not there either. Like, I'm not speculating as much anymore. I do sell comics, like I mentioned to you guys before. I consider myself a dealer. I think this is one of the best years I've had in sales so far. Maybe a lot of you that are listening now this month are because of my recent sales that I've been having through eBay, because through eBay I put Spectails swag and stickers in every purchase.
Nice.
So I hope that we do get some new listeners through that medium as well. But I don't speculate as much. I think that a lot of that is due to the MCU, due to the economy. Like, it's not what it was before. Even the James Gunn DC stuff is not as much as it was before. So I think for me, as far as like flipping books, it's flipping books to read more books, right, for myself, and then what I'm collecting as well. And I've still been collecting somewhat, but not necessarily how I've have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool that you're continuing the sales. It's cool that you're again, the hobby of collecting is a never ending process, and I'm not done by any means, and I'm still wanting to collect, and there are still books that I don't have, that I've let go, that I want to get back. And that's probably for another episode, but we will discuss that at a later time as well. But I do think for this speculation segment and to end out this show, because it is Halloween, it is our spooky season, we couldn't go the month of October and not deliver something, right? This is we're the horror guys. We love horror comics. We talk about that all the time. If you haven't read Creepy Magazine, go and read Creepy Magazine. It's always good. It's always good.
Yeah.
But I do think while we were away, Jesus, the world decided to release just some of the greatest, it might be the greatest 6-8 month span of horror movies at the box office that we've ever heard of. I don't know if there's anything specific. I thought that maybe we just try to end this episode, this speculation segment, with a recommendation. I don't know if you've seen anything lately, or if you've seen, there's a few movies that were in theaters in the spring that have come to home video now that I've been able to watch that I wasn't able to see in theaters. But I definitely have at least one recommendation. But in general, in a world where the box office hasn't always been that great. It's been a little up and down. Horror movies seem like they've been just tearing it up. It seems like once a month there's always a horror movie doubling, tripling, quadrupling its budget. I mean, I haven't seen it, but Terrifier 3, it just passed $50 million.
Oh, wow.
Making it the highest grossing unrated film of all time. Incredible. On a $2 million budget. Over $50 million.
That's phenomenal.
Now, I like, and all I keep hearing is it's a ton of fun. I don't know how something that horrifyingly gore-tastic can be. I like horror movies just like the next guy. I'm not exactly a gore person, but I'm telling you what, man, I might have to have some fun with this and watch Terrifier 3.
I haven't watched 3 or 2, but only reason why is because I want to see 1, but apparently 1 is from like 2012 or something like that, or even older.
No, 1 is 2016, not that old. I mean, it depends. Like if you want to go back to Art the Clown's very, very first appearance, it's like 2007 in a short film.
That's what.
But then All Hallows Eve, I believe, is his first appearance in a horror like anthology, which is where I think you see the most modern version. And there's probably a horror movie head out there that knows more than I do, but I believe he first showed up in like 2014, the current iteration that we know, like 2012 or 2015, and then Terrifier #1, which is it's not Art the Clown's first appearance, but it's the first full, because the other ones, he's not the main focus. Terrifier, he is the main focus. And that I believe was 2016. And just in general, I would go into it with a good sense of humor, because as horrifying as the movies are, Art the Clown is still hilarious. Truly. Like he is a trickster and a jokester. Kind of the way that people found Freddy Krueger funny. He was horrifying, but funny, right? Art the Clown has a lot of that going on. And I think if you can enjoy like Freddy Krueger, you'll enjoy Art. But he's much more sadistic, and that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, there's been a lot of horror, and I have 2 that I've seen, I mean, semi recently, and 2 that I'm really looking forward to that I am going to see. The first one I'll start, I guess, chronologically is Abigail, that came out in April of this year. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. The budget was 28 million. The box office was 42 million. But it came out on Peacock. I think it was one of their features in like June or July. And I remember watching it, and I was like, man, this is pretty interesting. It's a pretty unique, not too unique, but it's still a good change on vampires and things of that nature. So if you're interested in vampires, or you like vampires in horror movies or anything like that, it is a little bit different. There's a lot of questions that remain kind of unanswered in it. I mean, it's a full story, but I'm just saying, like, I'd like to know more. Like, there's more if they want to do more there. But it's if you guys don't know what it's about, like, it's about a young girl that gets kidnapped, and then it becomes like they're waiting to get the ransom, but then they realize that the person that they kidnapped, the young girl, is a vampire, and so it's Monster in the House with a little twist in it. And I won't ruin it or anything like that. I mean,
it's a lot of fun though. I agree. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's by the same people who did Ready or Not, which is also really, really well done. And they have a lot of fun. You can just tell when people are having a lot of fun
Yeah,
filmmaking because
exactly.
it really reflects what they
Yeah,
do.
and I mean they have pretty decent actors in it too, so it was really good. The next movie, I mean, it's a huge blockbuster. It's gotten both positive and negative reviews. You know, a lot of people say, or I've read a lot of people saying it's a lot of the same, which is Alien Romulus.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I really enjoyed it. It did have a lot of jump scares. A different type of scary movie, obviously, like Dread. You know, the Alien, and then there's a couple scenes that are like really well done, where it's like you're worried about what's going to happen to these characters. So I think that's a good part of the story writing or the writing itself. But there's a lot of jump scares, a lot of creatures and things of that nature. I'm a big Alien fan, so I was gonna watch it no matter what, and it definitely adds to the lore of it. So that's another movie that I recently saw. I saw in theaters. I saw it twice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've not seen it, but I have heard that this is much closer to the horror movie roots of Alien, where the first Alien movie was horror. Aliens was much more action horror. Not to say that I mean Prometheus kind of crossed those lines as well, where it was certainly frightening at times, but it was also action. But I've heard, I mean, this might be one of the first positively reviewed Alien movies, because even Prometheus, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was not overly well reviewed. It was mixed. It was, I think it was like 60 to 65% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And I think I think it got better with age. I feel Prometheus did, and I think it got
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
its audience a lot later in its lifespan or what have you. Yeah, man. I mean, from especially talking with you about a film, right? Like, I really like some of the things that he did with sound to enhance the movie. The first time I saw it, I was not happy with it because there was people around talking and stuff, and I didn't get to enjoy it. The second time I got to see it, it was a better audience, and I really got to enjoy it and got to see more of it. But yeah, he did a really good job with it, man. At least I think. So those are two movies that I recommend. If you guys haven't seen them, I really enjoyed both of those movies for different reasons, but they both have it, horror in them or jump scares and things of that nature. The two that I'm wanting to watch that I have not seen yet are, one is kind of I would say isn't not necessarily independent, but it's a smaller production company, I guess, but it has big names in it, like it has Demi Moore in it. Have you heard of The Substance?
Oh yeah. That's it is it's an independent film, but there's some budget there for that.
Yeah, for sure. But I've heard nothing but good things about that movie. I definitely want to see that movie. There's some body gore to it, but it's also has a lot of metaphors and a lot of different, things that it's trying to say within the horror of itself. And I love those type of movies, like whether it's social commentary or whether it's something else that ties along to the horror part of it. I have not had a chance to see it. It is on my to-do list. I'm about to get some free time to be able to go see it, so I'm going to see it. And then the other one is kind of a more mainstream one. I think it just came out, Smile 2.
Yep. But I've heard great things.
I've heard great things. I've heard that it's a very good sequel. It's a very good sequel and very good acting in it as well from the lead. So I'm very interested in it. I definitely want to go see it. And I'll be watching that probably sometime soon as well. So those are the two that I want to see.
Nice. Well, I'll try to be brief here. The one that I'm going to recommend is one that it recently popped up on Hulu. You can still go and see it, or you can still watch it on Hulu, and it got great reviews. It is a supernatural horror indie film shot on a relatively low budget. I don't know that I don't know if they had $1 million for it. I would probably put it somewhere in that ballpark, which I understand that doesn't sound like a small amount of money, but when it comes to films, it's not huge. And not a lot of recognizable actors outside of one. David Dasmal. Oh man, I never can say his last name. You know who I'm talking about too. Polka Dot Man, David Datsmalakian. And God, I apologize for butchering your name, David.
that movie too. I forgot about that one.
And that the movie is called Late Night with the Devil. It made $15 million at the box office. And on such a limited budget, I doubt they had $1 million, honestly. But live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. If there's an easy summary, I could say you could say that there's an exorcism on live TV, right? Like set in a world where Johnny Carson is dominating the airwaves of nighttime television. You've got, your lead character, which is David plays the host, Jack Delroy, and he is trying to do anything he can to just get a little bit of that attention, a little bit of that spotlight. And it exceeds there's all sorts of interesting articles just about how they ended up making this low budget period piece so perfect. It is horrifying. It's supernatural horror, which I tend to always prefer. That's, I mean, to me, I think supernatural horror is the truly scary stuff. It feels like there's more at stake than just getting murdered. It's to me more interesting at times. But I think they're more effective in terms of scares. And I don't know that I would say that Late Night with the Devil is scary. I guess it depends on who you are. For me, it was just a fun story. It's dark, and it's not certainly something that I'm just going to turn on every night and just be like, oh, let's watch this again. But I do think it's something I'll probably toss on again next year. I could see this being one of those, like, I like to watch it maybe once a year kind of thing.
Interesting, man. So there's a couple of things that, about that movie. One, there's a subgenre, right, of horror, which is like that supernatural / maybe even religious,
Oh yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. Two, there's something that happened either in the 80s or 70s or something. I have to look it up, but it reminded me when you were explaining what it's about. But apparently there was like a show that was an exorcism or something that was fake, but because the network didn't cut right how it was supposed to with the warning beforehand or whatever, it was played as or the audience thought it was real.
Oh.
It happened in the New England area, if I remember correctly, and people were freaking out, and they were calling, the cops and 911 and the station and everything to see if it was real or not, and nobody was answering because they were blowing up the lines. So it reminds me something similar of that. I don't know what it is, but I have to look it up. But maybe you guys will know that who's listening to it right now, listening to us right now. And then 3, there's another one that's religious like that. That's kind of interesting. The one with Hugh Grant, where he's like,
oh, that's just about to release. I don't know that's but Heretic.
Yes.
That I've heard that's amazing.
Yeah, that one caught my attention too, man. So yeah, as you guys can see, we're all about the horror movies and the scary movies. It's something about them, man, that's very interesting, that kind of speaks to us, and that I don't know, we just like them.
Yeah, it's real. Anyway, we've been talking for a while. We're an hour and 30 minutes in. You had to wait 8 months or whatever it was to get this episode, so we probably won't cut too much out of it. Probably just the oops ands and maybe some of the coughing and stuff. I think I've been dealing with a little bit of a nasal thing, so I apologize. That said, Jesus and I can't exactly promise when the next episode is going to be. We wanted to remind everybody that we weren't dead and we're still best friends, still hanging out and doing our own creative stuff. We would like to say to our patrons, somehow, some way, all of you managed to stick around and we haven't done anything, and we apologize for that. something that we are doing that we didn't even know was possible. Again, sorry about that. We are pausing our Patreon. So if you are a Patreon member, you do not need to go and cancel, although the fact that you've stuck around this long still boggles our mind. You don't need to go cancel it. You can stay around. We are going to pause it, meaning nobody is going to be charged. Nobody will be charged at $3.99. And we're going to pause that until we know exactly what we can commit to so that we can make sure the value that we asked everybody to sign up for is still there when we do turn it back on. And we will make sure we announce all of that when and if we ever do that. For all of you who have continued to support us even in the months when we weren't around, we want you to know that we are certainly not taking that money and running. We are taking that money and doing what we always did with that money, and we're putting it back into the show with more JJs, of course. Now, something we've never done before, but just to make sure that everybody out there understands how much we do appreciate you. The last few years, we've been pretty creative with our Spectacles Christmas cards and the Christmas JJ. And we've always waited to announce what the Christmas JJ is. You had to just get it in the mail. You had to just get it in the mail to figure out what it was. Well, this year we're changing it up, mostly because we want you to know that we care, and so we're just going to tell you. We're going to announce it right here. What the Christmas JJ is. Jesus, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, Christmas JJ this year will be none other than a very favorite Christmas time character, a part of a great movie called Jingle All the Way, and he's none other than Turbo Man JJ, aka Turbo JJ.
That's correct. Turbo JJ is the Christmas JJ. Now, funny story, we haven't actually reached out. The artist who we work with, Elliot's comic art, who we always work with to do the JJs. We haven't actually asked him to do this JJ yet. So Elliot, if you're out there listening, just know we're gonna reach out. Yeah, we're gonna send a text to see if this is even possible to get done before Christmas. Hopefully it is. But we are going to get that. Yeah. And for those who were unaware, if you're a member of, even if you're not a paid member, if you're a follower on Patreon, we send you a Christmas JJ. Last year was JJ McClane from Die Hard.
One of the best Christmas movies.
Oh man, one of the best Christmas movies. Absolutely a Christmas movie. And the year before that, the first Christmas JJ was JJ Skellington.
Nightmare Before JJ.
Nightmare Before JJ. And so yeah, that is the big reveal at the end of this episode. We cannot per se promise. Listen, I don't want to make promises that we may or may not keep. We would like to do another episode before the end of the year. It is nice to just get on the mics. We tend to talk too much. Sorry about that. But we also don't want to. We'll see. I don't know where we're going to be, and maybe we'll make an announcement when the film is my film is done, and maybe we'll just get together to talk comic books again in a couple of months. I don't know. Maybe it'll be sooner. Realistically, we are both busy with families, and the holiday season is coming up. So we just wanted you guys to know that we are still actively working towards figuring out how we can manage Spec Tales as well as our personal projects and personal lives, but that we hadn't forgotten, and we genuinely appreciate all of you out there.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, man. We have a lot of stuff going on. We definitely enjoy coming on here and talking comic books, amongst other things, including film and stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe one thing Jake didn't mention. Maybe we'll get a big guest or a small guest. I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know what's in store for us. But we are still, committed to Spec Tales, and we just don't know what that looks like going forward. And but we're working on it. We're definitely working on it, and we're excited about it and excited about talking comics. We just have to figure it out how to juggle, basically.
Yep. But by all means, we appreciate everybody reaching out. We appreciate everybody, sending the good vibes and checking in and all those kind things that good people do. So we appreciate that. In many cases, that made our day. So, with all that said, thanks everybody. This has been fun, kind of coming back on and trying to get back on this horse, on this bicycle riding. It took us a little while to knock off the rust, probably still rusty, honestly. But thank you very, very much. I will just close out by saying I hope everybody has a great week and help somebody else have a great week as well.
Happy Halloween.